Hello, today I'm going to show you some checkmates. They're the most important sort of pattern that you need to know as you spot as you play your first games of chess. As you play chess, you may start to find that the most important thing is to notice what's going on, and if you don't notice checkmate, that's very important. So here's some simple checkmates against the castled king and the uncastled king, and using some openings that you may meet. So here is a game played between O'Brien and Lower Smith. I'm not quite sure when. And this is the two knights defence. White fancies a go at this pawn, and black ignores it. The idea behind this move is that if white takes, then black will recover a piece by d5 with a pawn fork, but white carries on and prefers their original plan of taking the f7 pawn, and there's a fork of their own there. So all these ideas that I've just talked about you can see in these games. So there's a fork of queen and rook, and black of course saves the queen, and white likes the look of that rook and takes it, but didn't like the look of the black's reply. Queen takes f2, checkmate. So this is very much like scholar's mate, but the job of the bishop defending the queen is being done by the black knight. So a very short end to O'Brien's game there. Next, a game played between Nyssen and Van Diepen in 1973. Same opening, same attack on the f7 point. And now black just ignores it, or apparently ignores it, with bishop to c5, and white again plays this fork against the queen and rook. Black doesn't give white any time to take either the queen or the rook by playing a check, sacrificing a bishop, and then another check with the knight. And to stop the queen being annoyed with lots more checks, the king hides away in the corner. And black saves the queen at least by playing queen to h4, and now that threatens checkmate that we've already seen on f2. White defends the f2 point, which is now attacked twice but defended twice. Rook f8. So black by some magic has managed to defend against both the defend against the capture of the queen and the capture of the rook. White decides to chase away this annoying black knight, which is threatening, but this time white can play takes on f7. White thinks, well, that's no problem because I can take back on e4 and defend the queen at the same time, but that of course allows another mate on f2 rather, this time with the support of the rook. So a queen backed up by a rook is just as good as knight or bishop. Alright. Another mate, different sort of mate this time, and our familiar opening. This time white goes to break up the centre with d4, and so that the other bishop can get out, and rather than bother wasting time taking the pawn back, just gets on with fast development and castling. Black also wants to develop quickly with bishop e7, and now white does capture on d4. Black takes on e4, and now knight to f5 is an attack on the g7 point. Black plays g6, avoiding the attack by the knight and counter-attacking against the knight itself. But white's got lots of threats here and plays an important one. Queen to d5, which attacks the knight on e4, but most importantly, I'm sure you've spotted this already, this attack of the queen onto f7, threatening checkmate. Black defends the checkmate, and everything looks okay for black, apart from knight to g7, which is checkmate. This is a very special sort of checkmate called a smothered mate. There's no way that the king can move, and attack for, can't avoid it. A for avoid, B for block. There's no way you can block an attack by a knight because it can hop over anything. And lastly, can we capture? No, we can't capture. So that's checkmate with a smothered mate. That was played between Hoffman and Hellman. I'm not quite sure when. Another fantastic mate here. I think this was played between Delagolle, who taught Philidor how to play chess many hundreds of years ago, and against Saint-Brieuc. And this White's playing moves that we've already seen before. Black's playing some slightly odd looking moves, and now G6 to get the bishop out. I wonder if these were the moves that were played in the game, because this may be an invented game, but certainly the idea is credited to Delagolle. And we play knight takes e5 with I guess you can call it a discovered attack on the bishop, but what White has really done is move a pinned piece so the piece behind can be taken. Black gleefully takes the queen, but now check on f7, king has to move forward, and knight to d5, which is very pretty. I think that's just gorgeous, and it's called Delagolle's mate, that pattern to this day. Doesn't happen very often, but I thought I'd throw that one in amongst your checkmates today. Another little one, again very familiar moves. In this position, Black plays a really odd looking move, knight to g4, White castles, bishop to c5, so the knight g4 move makes a little bit more sense. And now we play a White plays a very poor move, I think. Knight to g5, which tempts the queen out. I think that's the idea. Tempts the queen out, and now something like d4 might have been one of White's ideas, but in this position played knight to b5, attacking the abandoned c7 point before trying to attack the knight or the bishop. Black moves out of the way of this bishop on c1, check with a gleeful fork and taking the rook, but really White hasn't been paying enough attention to Black's ideas, and that's a very common mistake in chess. Don't worry only about what you can do, but what can your opponent do to you. Queen takes h2 check. So although the king has castled, well, we say castle into safety, but this wasn't safe enough. The knight that was protecting the king is a long way away, and White has wasted a lot of time while Black has been organising their threats. So queen takes h2, a mate on h2, supported this time by a knight. Another very common pattern, and one you should know. And here's one last one, I think. Another common checkmate pattern. Again, some funny old moves by Black, but some nice sensible moves by White. Knight to h6, d4 opening up the centre, takes, and it may be that White looks very good because they're so well developed, and indeed they do. But bishop takes f3. Now Black is making a big mess of White's king side. If White takes back on f3 now, the king is going to be a bit exposed. But White had this other maybe brilliant idea: bishop takes h6, and of course if pawn takes, White wins, doesn't retake the bishop, but actually wins a rook. But after bishop takes h6, well, you never, in the same way that White didn't have to capture back on f3, Black really doesn't have to capture back on h6, and Black finds a much more threatening move: queen to g4, threatening mate on g2. So that's another very common pattern, and in this case White might think they've got away with it because they can stop the mate on g2 by playing g3, and the queen can no longer get straight towards g2. But after queen to h3, there's going to be checkmate on g2, and there's nothing that nothing that white can do about it. So very short and brutal game. So this is played between someone called Torre, and black, it says here, is wall, and I bet that's Bill Wall. So well done, Bill. And so all variations on a theme. They're very common checkmate patterns, where the king gets mated on f2, by a capture on f2 if he hasn't castled, and can get mated on g2 and h2 if they have castled. So make sure you don't fall for any of those.